So we're gonna go ahead and find that working or perception level first. You're at 25, I saw. So go ahead and give a tap. Tap, tap, tap. So you see how he's fidgeting here?
Yeah.
So that's perception. It's not so much working level. Working level is gonna be the number that's gonna be functional no matter the environment. That working number is gonna change, okay? Don't get married to a number.
Okay.
So here we're at 25, tap, tap, tap. Right, so you see how there's like a little bit of a response? We want more than that, so we're gonna go to 30.
Okay.
And tap, tap, tap. Okay, 35. And if you land 34, 36, it's okay, like, you know, general range. Tap, there you go, tap, there you go. All right, do you see how we had that bigger response?
Yeah.
You hit 35, you tap the first time, what do you do?
He sat down.
He sat down, right? And did we tell him to sit?
No.
No. So what happened was, you know, he's a little edgy. We increased that power, and off that first hit, he goes, whoa, what was that?
Yeah.
Okay, so he goes into a more docile or relaxed position because you had enough power to cut through the mental state. Okay, so working number is very important, okay? It's what's gonna allow you to work with Sykes, even like in the South, because you're in the South Loop, correct? In that environment, right? So in here, in my environment, obviously this is not realistic. We got some distractions here, but outside in the real world, 35, go and tap. 35 may not be effective. You might be 65, 75, because you have to override the environment, right? So when we go to Oz, there's a section of Oz that's a little bit quieter, which where I typically start people at, because I understand the reactivity stuff, but it's a really quick process just because of that. Okay, so we would have been, if we were at Oz, we might be at 75, but then we would have created this mindset simply through that, okay? Because you have your obedience training and then you have behavioral aspect, okay? Obedience training, sit, stay down, come, place, heel, mechanical stuff, you know, nothing hard. The behavioral stuff is actually a bit easier because it's just don't do that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
We have to teach sit, stay down, come, because they're not meant to do that. But obedience, like with the whining, like here, look at Sykes, and just look at him and tap. Tap. Right, and see what he did?
Yep.
What did he do?
He cowered down.
He looked away, right? And that's exactly what I wanted, because he was looking over here. And I said, that's none of your business, simply by pressing the button.
Okay.
So, Chris asked me, he's kind of jerky-like.
Oh, the contraction?
I'm looking at his legs now. He's just breathing really hard. Is that?
Yeah, this is like a tap again. Right. You see that? See how the ears go back? So here, this is just him breathing heavy. Okay. Now, if we see shaking or anything like that, that's just stress response. It's normal. As you expose him to the e-collar and work with him more, it becomes, it should all go away. Because this is not natural to him. He's not meant to have his muscles contracted.
Right.
Okay. But that's what all this is for. It's like to help teach him, like, no big deal. This is just life. You know, and he'll get over it the more you expose him with it, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go and start the basic leash walking exercise, and I'm gonna just demonstrate for you, and then I'm gonna have you work with Sykes, and I'm gonna coach you through all this, okay? You're gonna make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, so don't worry about that, okay? So, very simple exercise. I teach on the left, that's traditional, you good with that?
Yeah,
okay.
that's what I would do.
Okay, so what we're gonna do here is you're gonna actually give Sykes, slap, and I'm gonna tell you how much is enough. And when you're walking with him, typically we would just get this response of him passing you, correct?
Yes.
If you let touch and go, he just goes ahead.
Yes.
So what we're gonna do is you're gonna give just enough slack that Sykes can get ahead of you.
Okay.
And when he passes, I'm gonna say turn, and you're gonna 180 turn like this, okay? He passes, 180 turn like this.
All right, so I'm going this way, 180 this way, then 180 back that way.
Yes, and I'll be coaching you, okay?
Okay.
So when I say turn, Sykes goes, I'm gonna say turn, you do this, you start walking the opposite way.
Gotcha.
Turn,
I got it.
turn, right, repeat that.
Got it.
As you're turning, I'm also gonna say tap. Tap means press that button.
Yep.
Okay? So if you hear me say tap, 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 that would be your rhythm. If I say tap, 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 that would be your rhythm, okay? So it's gonna look like this. He passes, turn, tap, 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 good. He passes, turn, tap, 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 good, right? And keep repeating that process. What we're doing here is we're conditioning him to start interpreting that e-collar as a communicator. Okay, that's why that working number is so important, because if it's too low, he's not going to care about it. We need something that he's going to care about to motivate him to figure out, how do I solve this problem quickly? Because he doesn't like the pressure, okay? So if Sykes pulls to your right, you're going to keep forward and you're going to pull to your left as you're tapping, and you might need to shorten a bit to give you more leverage, but you're going to keep your movement until he pivots or he moves over to your left side, and then you're going to relax. Okay, so I'll tell you, pull to your left, so you keep walking forward, you're going to pull, and you're going to be tapping as I coach you to tap. He comes over, we relax. Okay, so it's a simple concept. The concept is pressure on when we need the dog to do something, pressure off once they comply. Okay, questions so far? So for length of leash.
Correct me as we go, because that was a lot of information.
Yeah, I know. It is a lot. So I'm going to show you how to hold your leash.
Okay.
I'm going to suggest.
All right, which hand do I hold this in?
I will put remote in your right hand.
Okay, now.
And I will take leash to your left hand.
Do you put your hand through?
Oh, both hands?
Right. So what you're going to do is take that off. Right. So handle over your left thumb. Okay. And then take up some slack here. So go ahead and bring Sykes in to your side. Pull him to your side. Pull, 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 pull. Good. Yep. And then here, you're going to shorten about there. A little bit more slack. About where you have it here. That's good. Like right there. Okay. Now you're going to take that slack there over your thumb. I'm sorry, not your thumb, over your, yep. And then close your hand like this.
Overall. Okay.
Like that. There you go. Good. And then relax.
So what
There you
happens
go.
if he pulls?
That's what the training is for. That's what we got to teach him how to walk. But he needs slack to make mistakes. Okay. So let me have you just walk down a little bit here. All right. So now what we're going to do here is go ahead and turn the 180. Yep. Now forward, and just keep walking. Keep moving. Now turn. Tap. 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 Good. Now turn. Tap. Tap. Good. Relax. Keep forward. Turn. Tap. Tap. Good. Keep forward. Relax. Keep forward. Turn. Tap. Good. Keep forward. Turn. Tap. Tap. Good. Keep forward. Turn. Tap. 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 Let's go to 40. Yep. Pull to your left. Good job.
Is that because he deviated from the 35?
It's because it's taking a lot for 35 to make them to respond. And then, yep, get your hold and relax. There you go. So we never want any tension coming from us. Think of the leash as communication. Let's say you're completely relaxed, right? And you feel you're standing still. Do you feel any tension right now?
No.
Why?
Because the leash is not tight.
Correct. And we're
He's not pulling.
Exactly. He's beside you, correct? So if you're walking and you start to feel this, what does this tell us?
He's distracted.
Correct. So here, people tend to control by using physicality.
Right.
I
I'm
just
using his neck.
Yeah, shorten the leash and all that stuff. And there's going to be times where you're going to need to shorten the leash because dog passing or whatever. But then when you have open space, like for instance, if you have a nice clear sidewalk at Grand Park or something, I go, I'm going to do this now. Because if you're walking with Sykes and he's here with no tension, what's that tell us?
He's cool.
Yeah, he's paying attention, he's focused, he's following, right? He's learning to follow your lead. But you have to give him the capacity to make those mistakes. People tend to shorten and they keep the dog like this when they're walking.
Right.
And then and they're like, yeah, my dog walks great. I'm like, no, you don't. I'm like, let that leash go. Dog's gonna, right? So what we're doing here is we're teaching Sykes to start following you. Okay, so we started with that 35, we went to 40, because when he pulled over here, it took a few before he responded.
Right.
And I want that immediate response,
Got
right?
it.
So as you expose him more to it, it's not that he gets tough to it, it's that it becomes familiar. Because remember, dogs bite each other, right? So in the beginning, it can seem like a lot because it's unfamiliar, but once he's like, oh, this is just muscle contraction, you bite each other. That's when you might find you have to adjust that number, okay? Sykes determines that number by his behavior response. If you're out in the real world and you do 15 and he's perfect, walking by dogs, no reactivity, 15 is your number. Or 65, right? How he responds after the tap or even pre-tap. Let's say you do the training, you go for a walk, and you're like, man, I went for a walk and I see the reactivity. Then whatever number we were working at that moment is working well. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So as you do this more, it just gets more and more clear. I'm going to have you go to start walking again with Sykes. Go to move forward. And turn. Tap. Tap. There he goes. Keep forward. Now slow to slow turn here. Yep. Tap forward. Tap forward. Pick up your pace. Tap, tap, tap. There he goes. Good. Tap forward.
Pulling backwards, what does that mean?
Keep forward. Tap, tap. There you go. Now turn. Slow turn. The pulling back, tap forward, tap forward, tap forward. Good. Keep forward. Tap. There you go. Good. Keep forward. Tap, tap. There he is. His resistance. There we go. Now slow to slow turn. Better. Now pick up your pace. Tap forward. Good. Now slow walk. Slower. Tap forward. Tap forward. Tap. There you go. Slow to slow turn. There you go. Good turn. Better. Tap forward. A little bit of a pull forward. There he goes. Good. There he goes. That pulling back is resistance.
Well, why?
Slow to slow turn because he doesn't like the e-collar.
It doesn't mean it hurts, it just means he doesn't like it.
Correct. Slow to slow. Now here, turn. Tap, tap, tap. Good. Now slow to slow turn. Yep. Good turn. Now slow walk, but keep forward. Forward tap, tap. Good job. Now relax. Good. Now you're going to slow turn. Good. Tap forward. Good.
Is that resistance indicating that that is close to the number? Like that it's impacting him enough that it causes him to...
Correct. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Now slow walk, but keep forward. Now slower. And stop. There we go. See where Sykes is? Right next to you, right? So here, answer your question, sorry.
No,
Trying to go through
that's fine.
is, yes, the resistance, right? So it's like with kids.
Try to come and instead of just dragging him, pop him and pull him at the same time until he catches up.
Correct.
That's the idea, right?
So with the working number is even negative experiences can be motivators. For, people tend to think motivators are simply only positive. It's not the case. Negative is a great motivator, right? When the whole pandemic hit, I went from 30 to 40 clients, training clients, to 0. Okay? And I still had a very large rent to pay. This is a 13,000 square foot space. Rent is not cheap. Okay? So that was my motivator. I got to figure out how do I operate now. Does it make sense? And there's places that have closed their doors. There's people that said I can't operate. And I could have said I can't operate either, and instead I said, no, I'm going to find a way to operate. How do I adapt to the situation? Okay, so negatives can be motivators. It's how you apply them. People tend to apply e-collar as a punisher. If I say sit and you don't sit, I punish you. Okay? And what I do is I use the e-collar to teach everything. So I shape the sit using the e-collar. Okay? So he doesn't see it as a punisher, he sees it as a communicator, right? But if I say sit, people tend to repeat sit, 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 right? I say it once and I make it happen. And the way I do that is every time I say sit, I always kick in with that remote until the dog complies. So then he thinks, If I sit fast enough, I can get the fuck, exactly. That's the motivation. That's why we're taking every opportunity to use the remote. Okay, people tend to use every opportunity or give the dog every opportunity to be a good dog. And they go, no. Use that opportunity to make them be a good dog. And you don't have to be mean about it. We're not yelling, we're not screaming, we're not yanking, we're not frustrated, right? We're letting the remote do all of that for us. So when you said, when he detracts and he tried to hold back, you just kept walking. But the number here that we have is annoying enough where he's like, man, doing this isn't helping the situation. What happens if I move forward and walk with Dad? It goes away. And there's actually a point, I don't know if you saw when you tapped him, he started to speed up. He started coming to your legs. Because now he started to associate, every time I get tapped, when I come in here,
I'm cool.
it's good. This is the safe space, okay? So this is the baseline for the reactivity, okay? There's two approaches to it. My first approach is always teach the dog how to walk correctly in any environment. What does that fix? Because we're making him or making you more important than what's going on around you, okay? Oh, sure, I don't like that dog walking over here, but I know if I leave Dad's leg, I'm gonna get it for you.
Yep.
Okay, so that's his rationalization. So then he's like, okay, I'm gonna behave myself. This happens, nothing bad happens, nothing happens here. Oh, so if you tell me if I just sit here and be cool, we're good. I don't get anything. Yeah, that's how it works. Okay? And when he starts to whine, that's just some anxiety. As you do this exercise with him, we ideally should start to see that dip. Okay, now he's starting to get structure, and the structure that you practice on a regular basis.
What do you mean that dip? Where he does this, you mean?
I mean dip in terms of the anxiety, like we should start to see that.
The anxiety level goes
down.
down.
Correct, yeah. So, because right now, he's getting the introduction to discipline, you start to practice it on a regular basis, then it starts to just calm him down. Okay, because you're putting rules to things, you're not letting him get to these degrees, because before we didn't have the means of communicating. But now we have a tool, like look at Sykes. Yeah.
Tap.
It's really not.
Oh, okay.
It's okay.
When he looks,
He was looking that way, right? Because right now, your attention is like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
His attention should be ideally where your attention is. This is where the communication is.
Okay.
This is where the interaction is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's over here in La La Land, over here looking at these dogs, right? And I go, don't worry about those dogs, because I'm not worried about those dogs. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And we're not saying words here, because dogs don't talk to each other. They bite each other. They go like, hey, I don't like that look you gave me. Boom.
So the barking, they're not talking?
Well, not like humans talk, you know. Like the barking it's not like our language. Like our language is definition, you know, verbs, nouns, all that stuff. Whereas the barking, it's vocalization, but there's no real, other than like, hey, how do you say, don't come any closer, or I'll get you, you know.
Talking shit versus.
You know,
So they're giving like warning, or I'm here.
I know what you're saying.
Establishing presence.
Technically, yes. So like, let's say if there's a dog, there we go, in the yard,
Yes.
and it hears a sound and it barks.
Yeah.
One, it's alerting the owner, I heard something, but
Yeah.
two, it's alerting who it heard, I'm here.
Yes,
Okay? But it's not to the degree like that humans
Okay.
communicate.
interaction, it's just establishing a presence.
Correct.
basically.
He hears somebody else in his hearing territory, so he's letting the other thing know, hey, I'm here too.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if he's saying this is my spot, get out, or if he's just saying I'm here, but,
Right.
and
It's one
then
of
he keeps
those, right?
going. To me, he keeps going whether the other dog reacts or not.
Sure. And then that's where you step in, because you're dictating now what's allowed and what's not allowed.
So, his biggest issue right now, to me, is the anxious barking in the house.
Yep.
So is that okay in the house?
Yeah, so right now, for this week, you know, this is gonna be your main exercise, and we're gonna cover this some more. You can use the e-collar to correct behaviors as long as he's on a leash or in a contained area,
Well, how contained?
like your house.
The whole, he can have run of the whole house, he doesn't have to be contained in one room.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay.
so we can use this in the house, he can be go up to the window, start barking, tap, tap, to.
Correct.
Okay.
I will give you another means of correcting him, but for now, the easiest thing for this week would be the e-collar.
Okay.
Now, if he's gonna be wearing it for a longer period of time, you do want to rotate that collar every 2 hours, okay?
So it doesn't burn.
Well, not burn, but get it as pressure source.
Okay.
And it's from 2 things poking in the neck. It's not from your stem, because it's not electricity, right? It's not, it's electricity.
Right.
It's like people that are bedridden, they
Yeah.
have to rotate them
Yeah.
because they get bed sores.
Yeah.
It's because of being, yep, good job, yep.
So should he have the collar on all day?
Only when you need it, okay? For this week, expect him to wear it a lot more, simply because you have more things to address. But come the second class, like, I'll be giving you other things, and you'll start to, like, be switching approaches depending on what you're, if he's in the home or if he's at home, okay?
When I walk in, is regular walk, should I use the collar?
Yes.
Okay.
So now your regular walks become training walks.
Okay.
Also, this is not a shot. He likes to use
The chain?
I can use
no,
this one until we,
not that leash,
you know, the extended one where.
Oh,
you-
yeah, this is
But
what you're going to use.
now, yeah, because I couldn't use that one now, because now the whole idea is for the dog to stay at or behind me.
Yeah, but that was what I tried to tell you to begin with.
Yeah, but this was before the training, and, you know, that was just efficiently getting them to poop and pee.
Sure.
Sorry about that. Go
No,
ahead.
you're good. So yeah, from now on, this is your setup.
Okay.
Okay, you get your prong with your releaser,
Okay.
and then your remote collar. And then you go on your walk. So on that walk, it's your job to keep Sykes here, okay? So what I suggest is you come out, you can ignore any pulling and stuff in the beginning, get that pee and poop out the way.
Yep.
Get that done. Then you go on your walk, okay? And during that walk, once you've initiated it, how we get him to walk here, like that closeness, and when you're slowing down and just matching your pace, you're wanting to get that in your home, okay? Get that? There you go. In your home. So now he starts to associate a new way of being in the neighborhood. Because now it's like on high alert, anxious, like see a dog, right? And what you're doing here is going, nope, not anymore. Now your job is, boom, I'm more important than everything else. Okay? And again, we're not being forceful, we're just being direct with that power. Okay? And the biggest thing that holds people back from progressing in training is they're afraid to go up on the collar. Okay? So
I was going to ask, how much is too much?
I put 2 collars on one dog.
Oh,
Okay?
Alright.
So earlier, we started at 25, 30, 35, now 40, correct? So there's a method behind it. It wasn't just, I didn't say just jump to 100. So what you would do is when you go out for your walk, get the pee and poop done, just ignore anything that happens prior, okay? Once you're ready,
Wait, ignore anything that happens prior. I mean, if other dogs making bark and all that, let him do it?
I would just ignore it in the beginning.
Okay.
Because if he has to pee and poop and you're trying to force that situation, if you're like in the building or something, you might just pee and poop right there.
Okay.
Okay? So that's why I like ignore that. It works backwards.
Okay.
Once you get the structure down outside, leaving from the front door will then start to become easier. Okay? But if you try to do it all in the beginning at once, it's gonna potentially lead to an issue. Okay? So once you're ready to focus, you go outside, you're looking at Sykes, 25, no response, 30, you're finding that working for, okay? And what you most likely see is when you tap him, he's probably going to commit to you because that's what he's learned today, okay? But whether it takes 40 or 85, Sykes will let you know, okay? Now, if he's vocalizing every time you tap him, it's probably too high, okay? Now, if he's in reactive mode and you're tapping him to de-escalate him, you may get that barking and stuff because he's already intense as it is. Does that make sense? And as you do more, you're going to become more just in tune to like what's too high, what's too low, and whether or not it's discomfort, just
Let me make
surprise,
sure I understood that.
frustration.
So when he's going ballistic, like when other dogs are, like usually he'll pop out of the gate and he's looking. He's looking for trouble, you know what I mean? He comes out, boom, boom, he's, where are the dogs? He might mistake a carriage down the street for a dog, he starts going nuts. As the carriage gets closer, he goes out.
Sure.
So I know it's dog motivated, okay?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, so he gets out there and let's say he's already peed and pooped. So I now don't want that behavior anymore, okay? So I'm moving on, now it's when I hit it.
Oh, sure, yeah, after that's out the way.
After that's out the way.
Yeah.
All right, so if he starts going off and I hit him and he keeps, I just keep turning it up until I get someplace where he, is that what you're saying?
And then the other thing we would do here is you have to shorten your leash, because if he's lunging and barking as you're tapping,
Yeah.
there's what we call a redirect. And if he's so agitated and you're going up on the collar, that he has to redirect that frustration, and he might either bite at the leash or bite at you, okay? So it's not making him aggressive to you. It's not like an ongoing thing. It's within the moment. He's freaking out about this, you're trying to stop him, it gets too high, and it has to go somewhere, okay? So when we do this, I shorten the leash even more, right? So you see how we have the slack lightly go up here? Tip, 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 tip. Keep that light pressure up, tip, tip. A little more up than that, tip, tip, tip. There you go, now relax. So you see how you have to go like this?
Yeah.
Right? Because we're in training mode right now. So go ahead and keep that leash on your thumb. And then you're gonna let that in. Okay? So here, if you relax, right? This is walking mode. Okay? So go ahead and bring your left hand up. Let that slack go, but hold the leash on your thumb. Okay? Then you take this, and now shorten it here, and go right around the forefinger there. Like you have it. There you go. And then close your hands. There you go. Now relax. So now we're in reactivity mode.
Okay, now,
Yeah. So now pull up your hands. See before you're like this,
yeah.
and now you're like this.
Okay.
So if I see an oncoming dog and I'm thinking reactivity, the first thing you'll see me do is shorten that leash. So I have immediate control, and you always want to pull up, not back, or up. Hey, or up and down. Okay? It's up. Okay? Up de-escalates, back escalates, up and back escalates. Okay? And that's what most people do. If you pay attention to people and their dogs being reactive, they're almost always pulling them backwards.
I pull him up
Up.
to the point where he's hanging. And
Sure.
I've had him hanging while dogs go back.
Going by, sure. So, and like, because the way he directs his body is with front paws.
Yeah.
Right? So if needed, like if it's a shih tzu, right? You're like, hey, this isn't working. Up, get those paws off the ground.
Right.
You can't go there, right?
That's what I did.
So then what we do is if I get reactivity, I go up and away. So when I'm tapping him, if he tries to bite upwards, I go up with him.
Okay.
If he tries to bite sideways, he can't reach me. Okay? So I can tap him and for the most part be safe out of biting range and then up. Up.
So
Like that.
what is the likelihood that he would attempt to bite? If
I
he's
don't
never
know.
done
I don't
it
know.
before?
He's saying he wouldn't be basically biting to hurt me, he'd be biting to go, ah! You know,
Exactly.
he's freaking out.
So
He probably won't, excuse me, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not scared he's gonna break the skin or go through my arm. He's probably, if anything's gonna tap me hard, and he'll tap me and try to snap at me, right?
right. So the higher you go up on the collar, the more likely you're gonna see it. Right? So if I'm at like 60 range, I'm not thinking about it, but once I start to hit 90 to 100 to 127, I'm thinking that, right? But as precaution, I'm just teaching you just in case.
I got you.
Because you start developing that habit. Okay? And then once you see, so if I'm the dog, right, what you would do is you would step aside. So if this is the sidewalk, you would step aside how you are there,
I would step aside.
just like that. And then, so face towards me, and stop right there, up, yeah, good. So here, this is the sidewalk, okay?
Yeah.
That's the grass. Okay, so you step aside and
Oh,
you're.
that's what I've been doing, Jesse.
Yeah, okay.
The whole time. And that's what, or between two parked cars, they go by on the sidewalk, I got him up like this until they go by.
Sure.
Then I pull him off the other way.
So you're gonna keep doing that, okay?
Okay.
The difference now is, now we have a tool that allows us to establish control and de-escalate, okay? So if I'm the dog, you've already done this proactively, whether it's a block away, half a block away, 20 feet away, okay? And you're watching Sykes. He's your responsibility, okay? So as this dog is approaching, you want to be looking at him, and you're looking for any signs of escalation.
Right.
So if his ears go up,
Yeah.
maybe starts to posture,
Yeah.
he stands up, anything outside of this position.
Right.
Okay? So right now, do you think Sykes is in a sit?
Do I think it's what?
In a sit.
Yes.
He's not in a sit.
Okay.
In a fit?
Sit, in a sit position.
Oh, sit.
This is what I call a relaxed state.
Okay.
Okay, so the reason why I differentiate that for you is because people get too caught up on the mechanics of sit, when really it's just I want the dog to relax. I don't care what he does actually, just don't bark at dogs,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So here, right, as this dog's approaching, he's relaxed currently.
Yeah.
So if you saw any deviation from like posturing, ears up, or things like that, that's no longer a relaxed state. That's alert state.
Okay.
You would then tap.
Okay.
You wouldn't wait for the lunging barking, that's already the extreme. And if he's already at the extreme, then you have to go to the extreme
To
you
calm him
made
down,
to
yeah.
stop him. And at that point, there's no real learning, because it's so harsh, okay? So that's why we do this incremental increase, because I'm trying to get to him without over hitting, so that he retains the lesson of like, oh, I'm not supposed to do that, okay? So, dog's approaching, you're of course watching Sykes. Any little thing like right now when you turn his head that way, that's like a symbol like that right there, right? You're like, boom, nope, can't do that. And if nothing happens, you're good. Once this dog is passed, you can then continue with walking again, okay? And then you give that slap, if possible. If there's too much going on, you can use this hold of the short leash, but still there's no tension on it, okay? You're still keeping it as relaxed as possible. You're just limiting range of motion.
Right. He can't get far. He knows with this, he's got to stay in closer to him.
Correct.
Before
But
he gets back.
yes, and very important that it's, of course, mental control and not that physical restraint that a lot of people do, okay? So I'm gonna have you go ahead and give that slack again. So you're gonna go into training mode. There you go. Almost. On the inside. So bring your, there you go, like that, perfect, and then close.
Is that supposed to give you more control over the leash?
It locks the leash, so you can't pull it out of your hand.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's what we call the trainer lock. So if he were to randomly, like catch, tap forward, keep forward, a little bit more of a pull forward, there he goes. Is if he were to, like, let's say, see a dog out of nowhere and become reactive and lunge, he's not gonna pull the leash out of your hand. It's locked, okay? There we go.
See, I tend to use that loop as my safety.
Yeah.
And then pull, and then hold it.
I've had that come off of people's hands.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, good enough.
There you go. Good, and then slow to slow turn. There you go. And then pick up your pace, tap forward. Good. There, yeah, there's a little perk in the step there. Good, now keep forward, slow turn, good job. And then turn this way, pick up your pace, tap. Good, because he was delaying a little too much. There you go. Good. And slow to slow turn. Tap forward, yep, tap because he's lagging a little bit, there he goes. Good, a little bit of a pull forward tap. There he is. Good. And slow to slow turn. Now walk slow but keep forward. Good, keep forward and slower to stop. Right there. Okay? So we're not saying any words right now because I'm teaching the foundation of what the command is. Okay? Heel doesn't matter anymore. So for the first week, you're not going to be saying anything. It's just when I start walking and he feels that tap kick in, his assumption should be moving here, okay? For Sykes, anytime he gets ahead of you, you want to think that turn and tap and just keep moving until he gets his butt over here. I have my 3 correction or 3 tap rule, which means if by the 3rd tap, I don't see a change in his behavior, I bump it 5 levels. Okay, for guys, I think go about 5. So then you end up getting to your answer much more quickly. So when you're finding that working number, it'd be 25, tap, 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 30, tap, 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 35, tap, 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 40, tap, boom. That must be 40 then, because it's going to give you a very exaggerated response. Earlier, 25, nothing, 30, nothing, then 35, he did this. And we didn't say anything, but it was a very big response to that first hit, right? That's how you're deciphering what's going to be appropriate for him within that context, okay? Questions so far?
Is it reasonable to assume when this is a very sort of chill environment, so when he gets out tomorrow or later today with Sykes, wherever he's at now, he'll probably need to go up? Is that an assumption? That
Yes, most likely, okay?
Okay.
It's possible that he doesn't,
Okay.
you know, but that's why I'm saying go by Sykes' behavior,
Sure.
not by, you know, what worked today.
Right.
Okay.
Because already, I was gonna comment, he should have already been going off. I don't know why he didn't when he came in here.
Yeah.
Usually, this one dog would have done it. And with all these dogs in here, there's gotta be a scent that, I mean, drives him crazy, and he didn't even do it.
Crazy.
Yeah, hey Bree, would you clear them and then, let's bring, who do we got today?
We were picnic last week. Oh no, but
Let's bring, so these guys. We're gonna bring a dog, okay? So, that 3-tap rule, if you don't see a change for that 3rd tap, bump it, okay? Because a lot of people struggle with that, they're like, how do I know when to go higher? I'm like, well, if the dog's not responding by that 3rd tap, I bump it, okay? There's also my 3 correction rule, which means, let's say you're walking, you know, down the block, and it's 1 correction, right, turn, tap, right? That's correction, correction, correction. And if he keeps forging, I bump it 5 levels. Okay, so then turn tap, and then you walk for a bit, turn tap, and on the 3rd turn tap, and I go, okay, bump it 5 levels.
Same for if, like he dragged, like the opposite was, he kept dragging the last few.
Yeah.
Same thing?
So if you're moving forward and he's dragging, I go tap, 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 no response, you can technically just bump it right there.
Okay.
Okay? Because typically with the turn, he's going to follow your lead. What's important is when you follow your lead, does he keep going? Versus walking next to you, right? Yeah. So you'll see right when you hit that number, when you turn and tap, oh, there you are, Sykes. And you're gonna walk for like 5 blocks, and you're gonna go, wow, on 45, you run, I hit no tension. That's what tells you what's working for him within that given moment.
But then the dog goes by or comes out suddenly, and
Sure.
he goes off, I might have to bump it up to 60
Sure.
for that situation.
Correct, but you would start at the number you're at, okay? So it's like science, same thing, right? He's blowing up, being reactive, tap, 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 bump it, tap, 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 bump it, tap, 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 bump it, okay? And yes, you may end up at 65, 70 or whatever, but you're doing that gradual incline so that we're trying to avoid the redirect if possible. So that gradual increase, it kind of, I would say, exposes him to the pressure a bit more subtly. So it's not like 45 to 100.
Right.
You know, because that's going to be a very big one. What the hell is that? But as you're building it, you'll start to see, like if he's lunging and barking, when you get close and you start tapping him, you're going to see this. You're going to start pulling back. Because now you're deflecting him. Okay? But if you're tapping him, he's just forging through it, it means whatever number you're at is not working. Okay? So, like, I already know the things to look for, but that's the most obvious thing. If he's lunging, like actually when you're walking by your son and your wife here earlier, and he was pulling towards them, and you tap, he pulled away and came closer to you. Did you see that?
That's all.
Yeah. So it's the same thing with the reactivity. If he's going forward and lunging, and you tap him, you'll start to see him move backwards once you get to the appropriate number. Okay?
Can I ask you, just for my clarification, the exercise you have him walking and then turning and walking, like tap, tap, walking, turning. If you're coming toward a dog and you have a situation where he's starting to lose control, are you supposed to do that?
So if you see a dog coming,
Yeah.
you're actually going to step aside.
Okay.
Okay, step aside, give space,
Yeah.
because it's much easier to control a dog when you're stationary than when you're moving.
Okay.
Okay?
I usually turn him around, so can I stop doing that now?
Now that you have this, correct? Up,
Okay.
yep, yep,
And also, is it okay if we
yep, yep. Yep, there you go.
Continuous split, because I do know he goes in the morning.
Oh, yeah, it's fine, as long as you're consistent on the approach, okay? Because what the beautiful thing about e-collar is if you're on the same page, it's gonna immediately start transferring to each other, okay?
Okay.
So then you wouldn't have you just do a little, you'll go back that way, you'll keep your leash how you have it, and you'll come up near the center, correct, near the center of the area here, okay? And then go ahead and come down with picnic, Bree. Good, and then hold right there, Bree. And go ahead and do a slow turn here. Yep, that's a good turn. And go ahead and move forward a couple of steps. Yeah, and then stop right there. And up. Yep, there you go. So now, Bree's gonna start to walk around, and you're gonna see what Sykes does, okay? Go ahead and move around. So you can see how he's looking here, right?
I tapped it.
That was correct. Okay. Gotcha. Right. Is it okay? Okay. So you see how like he's responding? Like sometimes there's more response, other times there's not so much of a response. Go ahead and bump it by.
When I zap him if he looks at me, when I tap him if he looks at me.
No. So I don't actually
I
care
want him to look at
where
me.
he looks. I just feel that he's not staring at the dog.
Okay.
Okay? Now, did that look like a sniff right there? I have to turn my head.
I didn't know, I don't think you said.
Okay, yeah. There you go. So if we see, so you see how he's kind of keeping his head up?
Yeah,
And his eyes are kind of awkward, like he doesn't want to look at picnic?
yeah.
That's, there you go, that's fine, because he's looking at you, he's not looking at her. Right? But you can see he's like looking around picnic, okay? So it's not right there.
Do you want him to look around, or what do
You
you
want
want
anything but staring or tension.
at the dog?
Correct. Okay? So for Sykes, if he isn't looking at you, that's fine, but it's not necessary.
Okay.
So other trainers teach like, teach the dog to look at you. It doesn't work. Yep. Because like, if they're trying to use food, the dog is too engaged with this distraction. Okay? Up, yeah, and then that's good. So what we're doing is we're saying that's not an option, that's not an option, that's not an option, right? So this side goes, okay, well then I'll just kind of look around at the ceiling here. Fine. Okay? So if you're outside, he might look at you or he might look at something else. As long as he's not tensing up or building or escalating with the reactivity, I don't care what he does instead.
So why do you find that he lays down?
He's just either getting tired, or two, he's just more relaxed at that.
So you don't want him?
But yeah, the reason why we don't want to lay down is if he lays down, you have to give more slack.
Okay.
So then if he became reactive, he's now got more slack to run forward.
Okay.
Yeah, so keeping the dog in a sitting position or in a relaxed state is much easier to control when you're stationary. Because you know for you, Sykes should be doing this and only this. Okay? So anything deviating from that, you correct, which makes it very easy for you to know, to differentiate between like, what should I tap? Okay? Because if the dog's approaching you like you were tapping and looking and all that stuff, it was completely correct. Now, let's say Sykes sees the dog and you see how his ears are back and his eyes are soft and he's panting. Like he's actually relaxed. He's a bit anxious, but he's in a relaxed state. Is if you start to see him look at dogs, but he keeps this demeanor, you can actually, at that point, start laying off the guy. Because he's relaxed now. Now he's able to see dogs pass and not be blowing up. Okay? So then I do, yep, exactly. I'm teaching him like, look, you can look at dogs. It was really just you lunging and barking and doing that nonsense that you were being corrected for. Okay, so then once he starts to clear that up in his head, he goes, oh, okay, cool. Yep. Great. Good. And he goes, cool. I know what my options are. Okay, anything but the fight response, which is, of course, the reactivity. Okay. Let me have you one more walk around. You can go to the outside, but just close it up a little bit. Right. Good. And after you complete the circle, I'll have you stop next to on the opposite side.
What do you do if the other dog is out of control and
Same thing.
you've got him sitting and somewhat relaxed, but the other dog, you've got to protect him against. So what do you do?
Sure. So like if the dog is just in passing, this is your best bet. Okay. Now sometimes the dog will be reactive and the person will bring the dog to you.
Right.
At that moment, you would say, no, don't bring your dog over here. Okay. Now when you're stepped aside, you want to use those peripherals. Okay. So go ahead and look at Sykes. Do you see this? What I'm doing over here?
Yeah.
But keep looking at Sykes, right? You see this?
Yep.
You still see it?
Yep.
Okay? So like if I'm walking and you're on the street, people will do this. What's going on here now? You see me?
Yeah.
Right? Is I don't want you to get tunnel vision where you're just focused on Sykes because you have to take in your environment as well.
Right.
So I'm watching my peripheral range, and if I see a dog approaching here, I'm like, man, this doesn't look good. What's going on? It might just be that person going, hey, are you sitting for me? And they go, no, we're not here to socialize.
Right.
You know, pull your dog back.
Okay.
I am very direct. I don't say please. I just tell people no or get their dog away because people will ignore please.
Exactly.
Okay? And they might call you an asshole, have to call that many times, a lot of stuff. It doesn't matter because you know what you're dealing with.
Right.
Okay? So in that sense, you're actually advocating for Sykes. You're going, look, bud, your job is to be here, behave yourself. I know you don't like that dog, but too bad, that's life. But then at the same time, I'm going, yeah, you bring your dog too close.
Okay.
No. Okay? You're good, breathe. So, that whining that we're getting from him, right? I want you to just be wary of that. Become sensitive to it when you walk with him. And start to just think to yourself, like, man, like, you know, Saturday very whiny, Sunday less whiny, Monday less whiny. Again, that de-escalation of anxiety, okay? And it really just comes down to being consistent with that lead walking. So once you start this exercise, Sykes' job is to be here, period, okay? Heel is not about the dog is not pulling that much anymore. It's a very strict position, okay? And the reason why we don't want to like give him any window there is because that will work against you, okay? He will learn to play with that inch or a few inches of like passing you, and next thing you know, reactivity is back, okay? Your visual is Sykes' right shoulder, parallel to your left leg, okay? His nose, exactly. His nose, when you're moving, should fall a little farther than where your foot lands, okay? So right shoulder is a great visual for you, but the nose is also another one. So if I'm stepping, I should be stepping past his nose. But if he's over here and I'm stepping it like that, clearly he isn't passing, okay? So to release Sykes from this position, do you have a release word from your previous training?
What do you mean release word?
Like
chill?
he's done?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Okay, so I use the word break. Break means you're off the clock. Okay?
I kind of give them like, go.
Go is
All
fine.
right, so let's come up with one that
No,
goes.
I'm saying,
Okay.
I usually have him sit, and he'll wait for me to tell him that it's okay for me to go upstairs after a while. So I didn't use a go.
Okay. I don't care what you guys use. It can be
You can
go.
use go.
Just make sure it's on the same page.
Or,
And then you probably have to remind me because I use visual. Okay. So you know, let's say you start. Who does his pee and poop? You work. You walk. You tap. You started the exercise, right? You go for a 30-minute walk. You come to a stop. You wait. Okay, Sykes, go. Okay.
And then just means he's free to do what he wants?
Correct. Now he's off the clock. So he can pee, poop, roll around, sit around, have a cigarette, I don't care. He's on his own time. But he's still going to be
Go
reactive.
through that again. How do you do the go?
So, going to go into, I'm not going to have the same heel, but you're going to walk. Correct. So now you're still in the command of heel, okay? Now slow turn. Tap forward. Good. Hey, breathe. Boomer's ready. And then slow turn again. And then you're going to slow off here. So you see how he's forward you? Turn, tap, tap, tap. And he started getting ahead of you there. Okay? That was a directional turn. Now slow turn again. Good. Now go ahead and slow down some more. And then come to a stop. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Right. So from
So
here,
he didn't line up though.
correct. So when you came to a stop,
Yeah.
did you see where he was forging a bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why when you're doing your training walk, I like having that slack because it makes it very obvious. Okay. But you were still stuck in the reactivity mode. So it's just remembering when you go from reactivity mode to, you know, the training mode, is you're giving that slack when you have the capacity to do so. Okay. Because if there's too many dogs walking around you, you're better off having that leash shorter.
Right.
But not short where it's tense, right? So the reason why he didn't line up with you is because he started to forge towards your wife and your son, okay? So you would technically correct that. For the sake of time, we're gonna ignore it. And so when you come to a stop, why don't you just take a step forward so you're next to Sykes here, and then slow to a stop again. Yeah, good, all right? So once you come to a stop and you decide you're done, you would simply go, okay? So like if this was
Let him
correct-
off,
No.
even if I still hold the leash, I'm saying though, meaning he doesn't have to be like this anymore.
Correct, and then you would give the slack.
Okay.
And then he could, you know, pee and sniff the ground, all that stuff. And then once he's done, you simply start walking, start tapping, boom, he's back on your side. Now we're back under command again. Okay. Next week, once I've seen what you've accomplished, we'll be using that word appeal. But this week, it's just gonna be purely the remote, okay? When you go for your walks, okay. Yeah. I do 80% work to 20%, right? So if it's an hour-long walk, 45 minutes will be structured heel, 10 to 15 minutes will be break time to sniff the heel, okay?
How long a walk do you suggest? Because lately I've only been doing the pee-poo back in. Earlier, I was walking maybe a half mile.
20-minute walks are great. 3 20-minute walks. Okay, dogs are better in smaller chunks. Okay, once you feel like, man, he's doing great, he's solid, we can go on long walks now. Then you can do a solid hour-long walk because you've already done all the core training.
No, Jesse, don't worry about the hour-long walk. See, that's what I'm trying to clarify, because if the hour-long walk is necessary, he can come take this one.
Yeah.
I usually walk in at night, and I would wait until it gets dark, when there are no dogs. Is that constructive for them, like going forward, or should I?
Oh, sure. So what I would do is target in the beginning, because you have to develop your skill set. Okay, target the quieter things. But then once you feel like, hey, you know, when it's moderately busy, he's actually doing really well. Then you know, like that 4 to 7 time frame tends to be when everybody's walking their dog. Then I go, that's the boss fight. That's gonna be the hard stuff. Then you go to target those time frames. Okay. So I don't care when you take him out for the walk in the beginning. I just care that you do this. Okay. Reinforce this, and then use those opportunities when you see a dog. Instead of running across the street or going behind a bush or going behind cars, it's like, all right, we're stepping aside, it's gonna pass. We're not avoiding this anymore. Because the other thing that you're doing is every time you do this and you're stepping aside and I see you adjusting your leash and stuff, right now it's taking you like 10 seconds. But in life, you're not gonna have always 10 seconds, right? You're gonna need to be very quick. But the more you do this, the faster it gets, right? So that one day when you turn the corner and there's a dog, you're already going into that mode of like, I need to do this because it's built into you, right? And the other thing you're doing is you're telling them, we're not avoiding this anymore. This is life. You have to get used to walking dogs, man. This is South Loop, right? Is you're confronting the problem now, okay? And the more you correct them and address them, we should get start to see just a decline in that reactivity behavior. Okay?
When he gets like this, usually he wants to pet, so
Don't pet him.
Don't pet him?
No, because you're reinforcing the anxiety. If anything, you can remote him.
Okay.
Okay? Now, you can do one of two things. You can remote him to disagree with his wife, or keep an eye on it throughout the week. Because the more discipline you give him with the remote stuff, you might see a decline in that, just do that as well. Okay? All right, everybody.